Hello, I'm Lynne Franks, your host, and welcome to my latest podcast episode of Frankly Speaking with Lynne Franks and Friends. My special guest in this episode is my friend, the author, poet, and spiritual teacher, the very lovely Rebecca Campbell. Rebecca, like me, is passionate about the return of the sacred feminine into today's world. And in her latest book, Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It, she explores her own spiritual journey and the healing that comes through rebirth, finding yourself, and new beginnings. We delve into the importance of women returning to their bodies and uniting in sisterhood, and all the possibilities which arise when women step out of fight or flight mode and come together in support of each other. I'm thrilled today to welcome Rebecca Campbell, channeler, muse, mystic, author, visionary, mother, daughter, granddaughter, and many other wife, and many other things. I asked you a long time ago whether we could do a podcast together, and I guess this is the time. So this week you've brought out this incredible book. I'm just going to hold it up, which I think it's actually back to front, so it's probably not readable. Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It. How to be held by life when it feels like everything is falling apart. And I'm sure that resonates for just about anybody and everybody, certainly for me, I must say. So I was fortunate enough to go to the blessing for this book a few days ago, and I haven't read it all because I'm still reading it too fast. This is not a book to be read fast. This is a book to read and enjoy and hear and see and feel in every way. So I'm my usual way of, I'm going to do the podcast tomorrow, read. And it's, it is what it is. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's talking about so many aspects of life, of a woman's life, that we need to hear. And obviously I'm a lot older than you, but it still relates and resonates for me in a very, very deep way. And it's poetry. Actually, the whole book is a poem, I've felt. I know that writing poetry is one of the things that you do anyway. Your work always includes poetry. I mean, I'm just going to pick up this, if I may, for a minute, just opened at this page. And this is, as in all the chapters, well, they're hardly chapters. I mean, they're pieces of art, actually. That's all I would say. So this particular poem that I've opened on says, the core of who she was in transition. Half one thing, half the next. The breaking down was necessary. The petals of the blooms that once captivated others, returning to the earth, to the earth, to the earth. Transformation was imminent. Future selves beckoned her to surrender to the cloak of the darkest night. Her soul was scheduled to go deeper than ever before. Anyway, that resonated for me. And this is about the ascent. There is so much wisdom in this book, Rebecca. It's just fantastic. And I just cannot recommend enough for everybody to buy it. But meanwhile, I want to talk to you about how you got to this stage. You talk a lot in the book about your journey as a woman, your journey awakening, your journey connecting in with the grandmothers, which I love. And as the experiences you've had with your babies, the whole story. And now you're in Glastonbury, which is a long way from Australia, but where you're obviously meant to be, with the incredible energy there. So can you tell me in your words how you got to where you are now? In a couple of sentences. God. Well, that's a long ask.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Well, no, I mean, I feel like I always had, I don't know if you had this, but like I had this like call within me that and I used to say it to my mum growing up. I didn't grow up in a spiritual household or anything like that, but I had this connection, which I wonder if everyone does, and I just somehow kept hold of it or something. But I just had this deep knowing that I'd come here for a reason, and that there was something I came here to do, create. And I thought it was create. So creativity and the mystical path are my two passions. And growing up, I I was so fascinated by the spiritual journey, and I had some really full-on experiences which were so out of nowhere and out of like where I grew up and what I got taught about life, that I just couldn't explain them. And so I had these experiences early on and have continued to have them through my life. Um, but I remember like looking at, like, also wanting to be kind of normal. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, my mum was a fashion designer. I knew I
Oh, was
wanted
she?
to create things in the world. Yeah, yeah, she was. And so she used to travel in Europe and all that a lot. I grew up in Australia. And so I had this like kind of sense of urgency that I wanted to do something. I guess it's like that change the world kind of thing, but I don't recall ever not having it. Yeah.
And you talk in the book, to go back to your, if you like, your relationship with your mother, but right all the way back, that you've had the experience of going through the womb and being reborn or being born.
Oh my
And
God. Yeah, like again, like these are these like far out experiences that have just like happened to me in my journey. Like it was after my kirtan teacher training. Kirtan's like a form of chanting. So, where you chant at the end of a yoga class, but it's a form of like
yeah, I saw
devotional
you
yoga.
worked with Nikki Slade, who I know,
Yeah.
who's brilliant.
Oh, love
Yeah,
Nikki.
yeah, she's very
Um,
good. Brilliant.
and yeah, and so I was during a period of my awakening journey, I was having a very full on Shakti awakening. Shakti is the feminine life force energy. And some people experience in their awakening like a kind of like shaking and like ecstatic kind of feeling. And yeah, around that period, I like spontaneously re-experienced my own birth. Now, I now know that like that it's a whole process of re-experiencing your own birth, and it's like a modality and all of that called rebirthing, where you basically go back to the moment of your first breath and the blueprint that you kind of picked up like through your ancestry, through the moment of your birth, the circumstances of your birth. It's like a healing modality, but it kind of just happened. And yeah, and but this seems to be the way I make sense of it and my path is I resonate with the term mystic, and mystic is basically having a direct experience of the sacred. So rather than it just being about like reading about it in books, it's like a more feminine way. And I think all women have this experience in well, the feminine teaches us directly through our body. And that seems to have been my path. I sometimes wish it was like I would learn it logically and then experience it. But yeah, and so I feel like I think that's also why like through my process it is like I feel like what I'm creating is it my creations are like my way of making sense of my experiences, and then I'm kind of translating them and then being like, oh, this is what it is.
And understanding it. So when you first came here, you were in the world, you were in advertising, weren't you? I remember you telling
Yeah,
me a
yeah.
while ago. You
Yeah.
were a producer, director of
I was
movies.
a copywriter and creative director. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were
So
always attracted to the creative side, and then you started
definitely,
going
yeah.
on this journey of
Yeah.
exploration and found out that your creativity was still there, but actually it was kind of bigger than trying to advertise the latest
Yeah.
whatever
Well,
soap powder.
and I think also like when I look back, like I went into advertising. I knew I wanted to have global reach. So my kind of intention was like um putting ideas and energy out into the world. And I love the creative process. So but then I realized that my way of receiving ideas was actually quite mystical, quite spiritual. So I would walk along the beach each day before, getting the bus and commuting into Sydney, where I worked before I moved to London. In London, I walked in Regent's Park, Rose Garden, and Hyde Park, and I'd get my downloads that way. I always came up with ideas best when I was on my own, and then I'd go into like my cubicle and or open plan office where as a sensitive I was not very good at coming up with ideas that way, but I would have already done my work and then yeah had to kind of like sit there and
Yeah, it's
pretend I was
amazing
working.
how many people, how many women who are on the path of the divine feminine came from a background of marketing, PR, advertising. I mean, my
It really
background's
is.
PR,
I
and I
know.
think it's we're very tuned into we're very in touch with our intuition. I think that's a big
Mm,
part of it. That's what makes us good at understanding how to communicate with people.
mm,
So,
mm,
we assume that that's kind of a commercial job, but actually it's much, much more than that. It's actually getting in
mm,
touch. That's how I feel anyway. I'm
mm,
not and would never claim to be a mystic in the way you are and the way that you've seen and feel things, but I still know that what comes through is coming through, and it's not coming through from me. It's coming through from
yeah.
a greater energy, and just to
Yeah.
acknowledge that.
I so agree. And like I really think that like intuition and creativity that like they literally come from the same place. It's just
Yeah,
like it's like you're kind of co-creating with life in a way. And
yeah,
yeah, I think it is really interesting. Like you say, there's so many of us who kind of went into communications, media, creativity. And like I think when I look back, and I know so many people like this, it's like it was just the best training to be
yeah.
able to, you know,
Yeah, I
because
do. I
I
think we said, okay. I mean, again, much older than you, but it's
yeah,
still the same kind of period of time in the big
yeah,
path of things. And it's like, okay, I'm going to choose to be born in this period of time, sort of 1948 onwards, and
yeah,
I'll go into this kind of workspace or this kind of training to make
yeah,
myself prepared to then do whatever it is that I'm here to do. And
yeah,
I think it's very, very
totally.
interesting. And
It is really interesting.
yeah, and this whole area of the divine feminine, which you talk about so eloquently, and the sacred feminine, and what happened thousands of years ago. I mean, in the book, you make the point that it probably started in the days of the Romans destroying all the matriarchal tribes. I'm
Mm,
sure you're right. I have this vision, actually, of I'm sure I don't know if you ever saw Cecil B. DeMille's great big extraordinary movies about the Bible, and he did one with Charlton Heston playing
mm,
Moses, and
mm,
Moses is up the mountain getting the tablet of stone, and his sister Miriam is downstairs at the bottom of the mountain with the Hebrew tribe, supposedly, according to Cecil B. DeMille, having orgies and playing with gold and being really badly behaved and drinking wine and all the rest. And Moses comes down from the mountain and shatters these these tablets he's just been given by God, and has to go back up and get some more because he's so angry that Miriam, as a high priest, has taken everybody on the downward path. Now, of course, we don't believe in any of that, apart from the fact it's Hollywood, it's a load of rubbish. But what it did make me think was, it's very symbolic of the patriarchy destroying the matriarchy, or
mm,
destroying the goddess, destroying the divine feminine,
mm,
and coming, in quite a different way, that period of time, whether it
mm,
be um, the Hebrew, the Semitic people from that part of the world, or whether it be the Romans
mm,
destroying them. In Africa, there's no question that the goddess was very, very present and in many civilizations, and then suddenly nothing. And then just to
mm,
make sure that we were completely destroyed, then sort of 500 years ago plus, anybody that claims to be not a witch even, but a herbalist
mm,
or a midwife or all those the jobs, and older women particularly who pass their
mm,
childbearing, and you've referred to this quite a lot, and it's something I feel very, very passionate about. It was just
mm,
like any chance women had to be at least equal with men in making the decisions that actually influence the human race disappeared, and
yeah,
have truly not really returned. And the
yeah,
women that have got any kind of what's called power in this in the dark world, let's say, are just kind of parodying the masculine way of doing things, and not in my book, politicians, businesswomen, journalists mostly are just still following that masculine way. So that comes
mm,
over. I mean, that's a real big passion of mine. Like,
mm.
it's time, it's
It's
time. But in your book, I felt that came over very strongly.
Yeah, well, I think that through the period of writing it, especially like I became a mum, I gave birth,
Yeah.
I moved to Glastonbury, home of the goddess. It's this amazing town that is the closest thing that I've found to literally people being in reverence to the
I've
feminine,
never seen a town like Glastonbury anywhere in the
Ah,
world.
it's amazing. But it's really interesting because, you know, when I wrote my second book, Rise, Sister, Rise, when I really started uncovering all of that for myself. Obviously, it's like been documented for a very long time, but that was like my
Yes, of
discovery of it
course.
and realizing, oh my God, like I've been making it in a man's world, like this, like feminine wisdom and power, like this is our superpower. Like, and at the time, I learned about the burning times and what happened to the witches, and that it wasn't just like, like my son, because he gets all the kind of regurgitation from society. He now is like, witches are bad. And I'm like, I'm a witch, but there is this understanding that a witch is like a certain type of person, but really it's just like a woman in her power. So
Yeah.
it's just like an empowered person who happens to identify as a woman. Now, at the time, I was like, oh, I definitely have like past lives as of those times and all of that. But what I've really discovered is that actually, like when you look at it, like it was 300 years of literally genocide.
Yeah.
Like extreme. It
Yeah.
is so extreme what happened. Everyone turning against each other, including women turning against each
Yeah.
other.
We had that
So
here
much
where I live.
trauma in our cells,
Mm.
and like that's passed down in our ancestry. And what I've seen happening very recently, as in over the past 5 years, really, is just so much processing of this like dormant ancestral trauma. And there's so much division coming up as well, and with social media being bombarded constantly, I'm not sure exactly what is the cause of it. Maybe it was COVID, we're all stopped for a moment, but things are erupting from within us. And I have noticed in my workshops a little shift. It's subtle, but it's so huge at the same time, where women seem to be meeting each other eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder, rather than like in competition or like I'm here in isolation. And I think part of that is that we are returning to our bodies. Like we're learning about the nervous system. We're learning about inherited patterns passed down to us. We're learning about slowing down to the pace of the earth. We're learning about, oh my gosh, I've been projecting all this stuff onto one woman who happens to be my mother. When really we have this grief that we're separate from the mother earth. And so we're it's like a mess at the moment, but we're unpacking all of that. And what I've noticed, even with some of my dearest friends who say are also teachers, for example, there's this amazing thing happening where we're starting to actually really enjoy each other more because our nervous systems are regulated and we're not like in fight, flight or competition or, expecting the betrayal, which was never conscious, but it was there just beneath the surface.
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree. And I find my work crosses over a lot of different areas. And
Mm,
if I can put it, the Daily Mail readers, I mean, I also talk to a lot of women who haven't necessarily thought of themselves on a spiritual journey or a spiritual
mm,
path, but are hungry for something and perhaps they're doing yoga and they have a bit of cacao and maybe they have a little odd
mm.
mushroom or something. But the people that didn't come to Glastonbury, let's say, or
Yeah,
still
yeah.
perhaps don't come to Glastonbury, but are aware through their womanhood that there
Mm,
is another way. So the more that we, particularly with our skills and our training in marketing, can create a safe space for all women of
mm,
every background, every culture, every religion. And I've worked, as you have, around the world in all kinds of different areas of
mm,
poverty and deprivation, as well as corporate boardrooms and so on. And
mm,
that whoever I've worked with, whether it be South African rural villages or women from prison and all sorts of areas that are perhaps out of my daily I don't want to say comfort zone, but certainly my daily familiarity.
mm,
There is this there is this connection between all these women and the similarity and an awareness and I think it's called very simply love, actually. Even when I work with women who can't even speak English and tribal and, just looking after each other and their children, particularly in Africa, it's love. And so when we, as women from a far land who don't speak their language, can connect and show we're in that space of love, we're in that space of connection, there is an immediate response. We're not having to, as men do, and I love men, and I've met your lovely husband, and I've got lots of lovely grandsons, but it's that men generally, most men, have to kind of create their space and their power in that space when they are connecting with another man. Whereas for women, it's immediately when we feel safe and when we are in the right place, I guess, inside, and we're not in fear or flight,
Mm,
we open up and we are there for each other. And it's very beautiful.
mm,
And for me, if we're ever going to create a different kind of world for, in your case, your lovely baby children, in my case, my grandchildren and the 7 generations, as you quote, and I always
mm,
quote too, the 7 generations to come, is like we have to create a new way of doing things. And it has to come from the feminine, sacred feminine,
mm,
whether it be business, economics, education, agriculture, healing, whatever it may be, there is a
mm,
different way of doing things. So I am so passionate about how do we women together, how do you, me, and all our other beautiful friends and others try and create something which we can take to the wider, the wider church of women everywhere and men everywhere and say,
mm,
this is a new way.
mm,
That is very deeply my passion because my age now, I'm in my mid 70s, 76 in fact,
mm,
which is a good 30 years older than you. It's like, why am I still doing this? Why am I not giving up? Why has the great mother allowed me to still be alive and energetic and in
mm,
my power of whatever that consists of, based on my mistakes as much as
mm,
anything else. And where is the space for the elders, for the wisdom
mm,
keepers, to work together with all ages of all women, but to be there
mm.
in their roles? You were introduced the other day by your great friend, and my brain's gone for a second.
Dinny Dansby.
Ginny Dansby, who I should know because she told me she knows my grandchildren, which was lovely, and I'm going to meet up with her. But she's in her 80s, isn't she? And she's been,
Yeah,
I
she's about to
imagine,
turn 85.
amazing, wonderful woman.
Mm,
And I'm sure has been a great mentor to you. In fact, I'm going to
mm.
meet with her and we're going to talk about where do we go as the elders that we can hold the space for the generations to come while we still
Yeah.
can. It's absolutely crucial. So
Mm,
all your work, you've got a lot of wonderful oracle cards out there. I mean, amazing. And you've got a number of books, and you've also got a lot of teachings that you've taken into um, courses and schools of sacredness, really, sacred schools. um,
mm.
are you planning with this book to take this into what's the next stage for all the work that's all the incredible work, the words, the poetry, the art that's in this book?
Mm.
Where does it go? I know it's not going to just stay a book. I know it's going to become something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I've been because there's a big theme in that book of like, healing the mother line. So this incredible, fascinating fact that I'm sure you would have heard before, but it blew my mind when I heard it, where um like at a biological cellular level, we each spent 5 months in the womb of our grandmother,
Grandmothers.
like
Yeah,
through
it's
our
incredible,
through our
isn't it?
mother and her grandmother, her grandmother, her grandmother. And so I believe that, like, this is on the same line of thought of the 7 generations forward and back. That through our mother line, we can send healing all the way back. And also through our mother line, we can, through sending that healing back, we can also connect all the way back to each other. Because if we think about it, all of our ancient grandmothers, like it eventually goes back to, yeah. So I've
One.
been doing quite a few quite powerful ceremonies, like a healing the mother line ceremony, um, um, ancestral healing ceremony. So I think that's really where the energy of this book is being transmitted, if you know me, because it is like a transmission, I think, this
It
book.
is a transmission.
I think that, and because the energy of it came when I connected to what I call the Great Mother Goddess, and also a group of guides that I call the ancient grandmothers. And you've been mentioning it in like as actual grandmothers on this earth, elders of the earth, and then also, if we connect in with our ancestors as well. And but that experience when I first connected to them came through chanting, through sound. And I think that song and poetry and those forms of art can, like, they speak to the soul in a way that's deeper than words in the mind. And so I've started like sharing that energy in through chants, through songs, where it's like many, many voices kind of like all together. And I never thought I'd create music, but it seems to be happening. And
Well, I
I've
don't know
been,
how difficult or easy this would be, but I had mentioned to you because you played the other day at the book blessing a chant that we all
yeah,
joined
yeah,
in, and
yeah,
in the book there is there's a code that you can follow to get the chant, and I wondered if there was any
yeah.
way we could play something now, or you were prepared to
Yeah,
play some
totally. I mean,
chant.
I could play the Unbound chant. Would you like that?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, if you'd like to, if you can sing along with this chant. Lynne will
I did the other
probably,
day. I don't have the
yeah,
best
yeah.
voice, as long as I don't lose
And
all the listeners.
it's not about how you sound. We'll
No, of
probably
course
put
not.
ourselves off just so the music doesn't come in and out. But yeah, the words for this chant
Oh,
are
yeah, that's a good
unbound,
idea.
unbound, forever unbound. And what that means is like, you can imagine. So maybe I'll just lead us a little bit now. If you just imagine, if we embrace that motherline healing thread now, and just imagining your maternal ancestral line. So maybe there is someone from your motherline that you know of. It could be a grandmother, it could be a mother who's passed, perhaps, or maybe you're kind of like, I don't really have a very good relationship with any of them. So I want you to just reach for the presence of a positive ancestor in your motherline. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to send healing, send power, send wisdom, send love all the way through your ancestral line. And if you happen to have children and grandchildren, you can send it all the way back as well as all the way forward as well. And the idea with this is that we're setting ourselves free. We're setting all the mothers free. We're setting all the women free.
And
And
maybe
we
the
can do
daughters, setting the
all of
daughters.
the daughters, yes, all of the granddaughters, all of the women, all of the people, because yeah, all the ones that will come if the women are free, it'll happen. But also, I've just read something just before coming on here of like, in the Middle East, it being like illegal for
I
some
know, I saw
women
it.
to
In
share their
Afghanistan.
voice.
I know they can't,
Yeah.
they've now
They
told the
can't,
women
even
they
if they
can't
can't,
speak to each other.
a bird has more right. A
Oh,
bird can sing. So we sing for them as well.
yes,
Unbound, unbound, forever unbound.
yes,
Set yourself
absolutely.
free. Set all the mothers, all the women, all the daughters free.
Unbound, unbound forever. Unbound, unbound, unbound. unbound forever. Unbound, unbound, unbound. Unbound, 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 unbound forever.
So powerful. So powerful. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Just wonderful. And I suppose as what goes with the dancing, I can't even talk now, another headspace. What goes with the music, what goes with the poetry, what goes with the sound of the drum, of course, is the dance, which is something also I feel is so important for women to do when we're together. And the
Yeah,
music.
there were such simple, natural practices that I think when we gather, like it does come naturally, and it's kind of it's like in our cellular memory. But it's like these are the things that were taken away during those times that we were talking about before. And yeah, I think that is like part of what is so powerful about when we gather as women, like in circle or, for a mother blessing, like before a baby comes in, or like they're simple gatherings. And I think to put it into context, it's like as we remember these like ancient connection points that we used to always do, like healing is happening. And I think particularly like to your point of like the elders and like we need to be gathering in like with all the generations together, because like we've been isolated for so long, and like it's all needed. And so I think, I'm next week I've got a retreat in Montserrat, and Binny's coming
Oh,
to that
wonderful.
retreat. Yeah, it'll be her 85th birthday while she's there. And like just having the presence of like someone who has that wisdom in the room, it shifts things on such a deep level. So I my wish is that like we find our way back to doing that.
Yes, yes. I mean, I teach and coach women generally who are around about 45 years old, generally 45, 50, 55, which is, I guess, the time when women are moving into their wisdom keeper, into their wise woman phase, and they're going into this next stage. And so to hear an older woman who can hold the space for them and listen and hear them and say it's okay, the other side, you're not going to disappear, you're not invisible, you're still very visible, and you still have much work to do here. It's really important. So that's
amazing.
beautiful. Oh, that's lovely. So I've got a whole load of questions I was going to ask you. I feel we've covered so much, and I guess it's all in the book. I'm just going to quickly. Oh, yeah. So actually, maybe we've covered it. What I've said here, one of the questions is, how can we bring the divine feminine into daily life for women that are not yet connecting, the women I was referring to earlier? They bring it into a very easy way of
Well, I mean, I think it's like we want to look at our intuition. We want to look at creating and appreciating beauty as well. I think that's something that a woman does without even really trying. And we kind of like underrate how amazing that is of like, you can have a house, but a woman can turn it into a home. Just I've been to your home, which is a piece of art. Oh my God.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
like going to I don't know, an incredible London pad in the middle of Somerset museum. Yeah,
Well, you can't
yeah.
see it in this particular. I've got it all hazy in the background, but yeah,
Mm.
I'm very
But
happy living in
I think,
Somerset.
oh yeah, it's so nice. And I think also like recognizing that also like our rage as well is really sacred. And so it like anything like if we're in the phase of our monthly cycle, and obviously we're not in our whole life, I get that, but in those phases where that PMS phase, which we try and like cower from, that's where our power is, that's where it's like we get to choose if we want to create or destruct. And I think we need more women in connection to that. And my understanding, I'm just like entering my perimenopause years, so you will need to tell me about this. But what I've heard about that gateway is that like there is this incredible initiation that can happen where we can connect in with that power that we have within us.
I remember one of the first times I went to Glastonbury Festival, which was quite
Mm,
a long time ago, and I was probably perimenopausal, but I was still having my periods. And I remember driving back and my period started and there was a big yellow field. It's rape or something, those big
mm,
yellow fields that are all over this area and I stopped my car. And again, just listening to my body and my intuition, and I got out of my car and just lay on the rape and just let my blood go into the earth and just felt
mm.
as one.
Wow.
And I don't even, there's definitely different times of life where we are with our physical bodies, whether we're still bleeding, whether we're changing, whether we're post-bleeding. But it's very natural and it is all about connecting with nature. And I think at the moment the
Mm.
menopause has almost become too trendy. That's such a
Yeah,
word.
right.
And let's all take lots of chemicals and all the rest of it. And there's
Mm,
another book and there's another thing. And actually, it's just really feeling ourselves, hearing ourselves, and being aware that this passage of time, this incredible passage of time that we go through when we are experiencing the menopause, takes us to the wise woman, which is just
mm,
wonderful. And we
mm,
just need to look after our physical well-being as well as our spiritual and mental well-being so that we can enjoy this period of time when
mm,
our neuro pathways changing more than anything, even more than our womb in a way, and the masculine and feminine kind of comes together we're in our very powerful feminine. There's
mm,
you may know this that in certain of the native tribes in America, it is the old women, the old matriarchal women that choose the young braves and
mm,
who's next going to be chiefs. And
mm,
that still goes on in some of the tribes in the eastern part of America, North America.
mm,
And I love that idea that,
mm,
that we can still have a role in many societies, do have a role, which
mm,
can be there to help the 7 generations to come. So that's
mm.
beautiful. So I also wanted to ask you, because when I met you the other day, you were talking about this book was the most difficult in terms of the practical um, process of getting it out. There was, that you kept going backwards and forwards and should have been out a while ago, I think, and there was
Yeah, oh my
changes.
God, there's been like printing errors. The black pages bled onto the white pages. It was kind of like a bit unruly, and
Yeah.
yeah, pages were printed in the wrong order.
Well,
And
I'm not surprised. I have to say that the black pages, for example, with the
yeah,
white against the white, was so brave. I looked at it and I thought, how are they going to do? That's incredible how they managed
I
to do
know,
that.
especially for me, I'm like normally pastel. So it's
Yeah.
been, yeah, it's been a tricky book to, like I do have marketing experience, but this book, as I said to you, I'm like, Lynne, tell me, how should I talk about this book? Because I don't even know how to. I know I'm really proud of it and I know it's powerful. But as far as like you know, I used to be able to package everything that I do up into a perfect, pretty little bow, but this is like, it's beautiful, but it's not pretty.
No, it will come. It will come. We did
Mm,
talk about it because I remember saying to you, "Oh, have you got a press release?" And you said,
mm,
"No, it'd be you write the
mm.
press. Would you write the press release?" I mean, for me, it's a poem and it's a piece of art and a
Mm,
work of art, as well as incredible deep teachings that every woman and man should read. And I
mm,
want to thank you on behalf of the world for giving birth to this incredible piece of work, which really I'm going to encourage everybody I know to read and absorb and to allow themselves to really enjoy enjoy it. So there's dark
Thanks, Lynn.
sides to it. You went through your dark
Mm,
journey and the darkness is there,
yeah.
but through the darkness, as we know, comes the light. And that's where we're at as a human race and as the
Hmm.
world right now. We're going through these dark times to come through. And so we need the help of a book like this, of your teachings and of others. So thank you,
Mm.
thank you, thank you. It has been an
Thanks so much for
absolute
having me, Lynn.
pleasure. I hope you enjoyed listening to my powerful chat with Rebecca Campbell and her beautiful meditation. The unique exercise that goes with this loving and deep conversation is an invitation from Rebecca and myself to imagine the life-changing experience that can occur as you send healing back through your maternal lines and address your ancestral wounds. You might want to do this alongside Rebecca's unique meditative music that is included in this loving, soulful episode. If you enjoyed what you heard and would like to learn more practical methods to help you plant your seeds in your empowerment journey, then please subscribe to this podcast, rate it and review. Also, please make sure you visit lynnefranks.com, where you can join my mailing list if you haven't already, and together with thousands of like-minded women, become part of my seed network, meeting up through coaching courses, seed programs and retreats. So I'll see you next time, when I am joined in dynamic conversation with best-selling author, visionary and shaman, and my new friend and sister, Manda Scott.